of 2007. Fred Barnes goes right back to Washington and writes a glowing column about Palin and what a fabulous politician she is and a promising rising star in the Republican Party. Soon after, there's this young man named Adam Brickley who is just out of college, and he is a staunch conservative. He's looking for somebody who could add some pep to the Republican ticket, and he particularly is worried about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton as a possible combination. So anyway, he's looking for a female, and he starts with Wikipedia, and he just looks for all the females in the Republican Party. And I interviewed him. He says at some point, he couldn't find anybody good, and then he thinks, oh, what about that lady that just got elected in Alaska? So he looks up things about Sarah Palin and sees that she's considered kind of this rising star. And so he starts a blog that's called Sarah Palin for Vice President blog. And it starts pushing Palin and gets picked up by many other conservative blogs, and then finally works its way into kind of conservative radio, Rush Limbaugh, and the American Spectator, conservative magazines. So there's this sort of growing groundswell. Now, the thing that interested me about Brickley is, while he is a kind of authentic, one-of-a-kind voice, I think, he is also the product of very much of Washington in a way. He's not from Washington, he's from Colorado, but he's been trained by a number of conservative organizations in Washington. Yeah, he's from Colorado Springs, and he's a homeschooled evangelical Christian, one that is so far into sort of the kind of conservative Christianity. His family describes themselves as Messianic Jews, meaning that they believe to be like Christ, they need to be Jews because Christ was a Jew. It's very unusual where they're coming from. But at the same time, he also is somebody who's gone to the Leadership Institute, which is an organization that Morton Blackwell, an evangelical Christian, founded a couple decades ago to train sort of cadres of the right wing. And so Adam Brickley's gone through this training. He's also received scholarships from various right-wing organizations. He currently is living in a dormitory that's part of the Heritage Foundation here in Washington, which is another big right-wing think tank. He's been trained in how to kind of help the conservative movement and how to become part of it. So he's pushing Palin, and his blog gets a lot of traffic, and so there's kind of this nexus of these forces coming together, both of which are really Washington forces that are pushing Palin.
I thought it was very interesting how, as you said, he saw Hillary's popularity, so he went to Wikipedia, searched election sites for Republican women. Not that he supported affirmative action, but he saw the political writing on the wall, and he puzzled over every Republican female politician I knew, he said. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, you write, of Texas, waffled on social issues. Senator Olympia Snowe of Maine was too moderate. He was running out of options, he recalled, when he said to himself, what about that lady just elected in Alaska? Online research revealed she had a strong grassroots following. She said, I hate to use the words cult of personality, but she reminded me of Obama. So set up Palin for vp.blogspot.com.
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, and it is interesting. There was not that much competition, if you're looking through the Republican Party, for female figures from the far right. I mean, Palin, she barely had any experience at all even in statewide office at this point. She's just been governor for a couple months, but there weren't that many people to pick from. So her resume, her biography, is what really caught these guys' eyes, and they're sort of going down a checklist. They're looking far-right politics, female, and then attractive. And one of the things that all of the Republican political pundits who came through the governor's mansion were, it was funny to interview them. They were just smitten by her. They described her wearing high heels and saying, "Hi, I'm Sarah," and introducing herself charmingly. And they talked almost to a man how gorgeous she was. They called her a honey. Bill Kristol called her my heartthrob. I mean, they sounded like guys with schoolboy crushes.
So, Jane Mayer, let's move now to the other track, and that was McCain, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. How did they merge? What was McCain doing? In the end, as you point out, he met her all of 3 hours. How did it happen? McCain, who wanted Lieberman, chooses Palin.
It's really kind of a wild story, as you know, American history goes, because it almost didn't happen. I mean, and it was almost almost an accident that it did happen. Basically, McCain and his sidekick Lindsey Graham, who he's very close with from the Senate, were both leaning heavily towards another senator, Joe Lieberman, the independent from Connecticut, former Democrat. And they really had a great comfort level with Lieberman and very much wished they could pick him for vice president. But all of the sort of political operatives were saying, you can't do it. It's going to hurt you with the base of the Republican Party. Lieberman was too liberal. He's pro-choice on abortion. He has a hawkish foreign policy, but on domestic policy, he's like a Democrat still in many ways. And so they were basically the operatives around McCain in the week before he picked told him he couldn't have Lieberman, which one of McCain's friends described to me as putting him in a foul humor. He was really upset and angry, and so they went through the list of what was available, and there were so many things wrong with each of the possible picks that they decided to push Palin on McCain, and he hadn't really spent any time with her. He'd talked to her for something like 15 minutes at a reception with a lot of other people, and so they engineered then a private conversation for him. He spent, somewhere under 3 hours in total face-to-face with her before he picked her, and it was then a fait accompli. So that's how it happened.
The issue of choosing Romney, as one old friend of his said, he just couldn't stand Romney. Is that right?
Well, that is what one person said. Apparently, a lot of personal animosity lingers because of the competition during the primary season, and so that was out for personal reasons. I quote somebody named David Keene, who was the head of the American Conservative Union, who was pushing Romney and said that he told Romney, "Don't wait by your phone. He doesn't like you," meaning McCain. And with McCain, he says, all politics is personal. So there wasn't any good chemistry there.
And this whole issue of Sarah Palin going rogue right now, setting herself up for 2012.
Well, it's really interesting, isn't it? She seems to be breaking out from the handlers, the McCain handlers, blaming them in some ways for things like the clothing, the $150,000 spent on her outfits, which obviously damaged her image. Such a contrast, again, between someone portraying herself as a Washington outsider and not an elitist, and then spending just that kind of money on the most expensive clothes in the country. It really hurt her image. So she's saying that this was not her idea, and it was pushed on her by the McCain campaign. And she's separating herself out. I think you get the feeling that they're turning on each other, maybe so that she can position herself for the next time and try to limit the damage from this run.
Jane Mayer, I want to thank you for being with us.
I've got to say,
we've got 5 seconds.
Okay, they could still be elected, so don't count her out yet.
Jane Mayer of The New Yorker magazine, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Goodman. Our website, democracynow.org.